Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Jose Quiroz of jquiroz.com. Jose, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And before we jumped in, I want to read a little bit more about Jose so you can hear about all the awesome things that he's doing. And Jose is a digital leader, and he and his team help establish brands, companies, and organizations successfully define and implement digital transformations. Over the past year, Jose and his team have helped clients see over 203% increase in online revenue. Jose, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Yeah, man. Hopefully they're ready to listen.
Yes, absolutely. We're all ears. And to kind of kick everything off, I wanted to hear a little bit more on how you got started. Could you take us through what I call your CEO story? We'll let you get all started with all the awesome work you're doing.
Yeah, of course, man. So I always love to start off with I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm an immigrant. That's the lens that I live my life with, and that's everything that's guided me to this day. I was born in Mexico, came here as a kid. My dad was here at 40 with whole family and became a millionaire at 55. How? Janitorial company, 7 days a week. The motto at the house was you work 23 hours a day, you sleep one. You don't want to work today, you don't eat today. And so that's what really kind of drove me that way. So all growing up, I worked a bunch of labor jobs. I mean, your typical immigrant jobs from janitorial to construction, cleaning, all of that good stuff. And then I went to college, majored in organizational communications and public relations. When it was time to graduate, the universe, God, just aligned for me. And Obama had passed part of the DREAM Act, which allowed people in my situation, young kids coming over with no paperwork to get a license, to get a social security number, they can get a job, they can move around without any fear. And I took full advantage of it. So I applied for it, grabbed it. I was living in Northern California at the time, helping my dad expand his janitorial business, but I wanted to get into the corporate world. So I applied, got a job opportunity down in Southern California, and that was my foot into the digital world. I got in there, just a temp, just working. I was happy to be in the office, man. I was happy to be in some AC. Yeah, no more construction and
Right.
cleaning and none of that, right? And you're making good money just sitting on your butt. So I brought that immigrant work ethic. My director of digital marketing at the time really took a liking to me, offered me a position, told her I'd love to, but I don't know anything about digital. She said, you work for me, I'll teach you anything you want to learn. She sent me to conferences and seminars, put me in meetings I probably shouldn't have been in, but it was just to observe knowledge, keep her in the loop, and help manage, the team. And so I worked under her for about 2-3 years. Then I worked in corporate totally for about 4 to 5 years. And then I decided to make a move. I was around 27 and I was looking at people around me, and some people were 35 and 45. And I'm thinking to myself, if I give myself 10 years, I'm at 37 and it fails, I'll be back with them. This ain't going away. And so, yeah, I did. And I helped out some local businesses here and there, but really my core bread and butter was these big guys, the corporate guys, or these medium-sized businesses doing, low seven figures, 1 to 5 million a year online, but they want to take it to 25 or 100 million. And that was really my bread and butter. And so I've been working that ever since. I have my independent consulting practice, and then I also have a joint venture with a global brand strategy agency, Antonio in Paris. They've done amazing work, and under that partnership, there's the likes of Burger King, Mini Cooper, AT&T, Paramount Studios. It's just a massive just book of business there. So I go in and I help support any digital initiatives that come out of a brand strategy, which at this point right now, if your brand strategy does not have a digital aspect to it, you're doing something wrong.
Right. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I love that you've been able to kind of drill down and take that work ethic that you kind of talked about, because I think so many times, I think a lot of times the secret ingredients to success is that work ethic, and you being able to kind of see that from your father, but at the same time, implement that into everything that you do is so huge, and it ranks true in everything you're saying, but also in the work you do, I imagine too.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I've learned from myself, throughout this journey is definitely balance. My father was it was an amazing business guy, and really was a great provider for the family, but there wasn't very many hugs and kisses. It was
Mhm.
very just hard work. And so I've talked to him a lot about this. He's still in my life, and I share my business stuff with him. And the other day he gave me kudos on a couple of things. He said, one, I love how organized your systems are and your structure is, and I also love the balance that you're doing. You're taking time to go for a walk, you're taking time to kick it and watch a movie with me. And it's this Rome doesn't get built in a day. So
Mhm.
sometimes we work as if it does. And so it's that 20-mile march, right? Or that million step march that you just gotta, one day at a time, and you step forward, and that's it.
Absolutely. It's definitely a marathon. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Sometimes when we're ambitious and we want to see goals come to fruition, we will work as if Rome can be built in a day, or we're going to die trying to have it built in a day to some degree. And that only hurts us in the long run. So I think it's so important to kind of do that, to have that work ethic, to be able to see that, but at the same time, be able to kind of see the long journey that it takes in order to get to wherever we wanted to go. And so I know you touched a little bit upon that digital brand piece and how you should definitely have a digital brand. So could you take us through a little bit more on how you help your clients to do that in different ways that they can do to implement that, and how you help them to do that?
Yeah, of course. So I'll go kind of two sides of the coins here. The first is internal. My bread and butter is working with established business owners, established brands, companies who've been in their industry and been killing it in their industry, but digital has kind of left them by the wayside. They've
Mm,
been so focused on mastering their business, their industry, that now that it's time to COVID has forced people to go into digital, right? Before it was already suggested and recommended and best practices to go there, but there was a lot of businesses that were able to maneuver without it, right? They were like, it's okay, we can do without it. We know it's important, but we can do without it. So now that they're forced to do it, they're looking a little like deer in the headlights, right? And
mm,
they go online and everyone's trying to sell them something. Everyone's got a course for them. Everyone has an agency. Everyone has a funnel that works. Everyone has a channel that works.
mm,
All that good stuff. So the first part of kind of what I do is I just build an intimate connection with the business owners, with senior management, and help them understand this world, help them what it means to maneuver in this world, what are the psychographics of people in this world, different platforms they're in, why are they in that platform, the intent of that platform, what are the different touch points that you have to have with someone digitally in order to build that rapport, especially if you're selling a high ticket item, right? Like you're going to have to take them through this journey. So part of that is working with them internally on that mindset, helping them understand, removing all the buzzwords in the vernacular. Let's get to business and show you how you can use this as a tool, right? And how that supports your overall brand initiative and all that good stuff. And then on the other side, we try to identify what are the disruptive digital strategies you can use to cause noise in your industry or within your market space, right? So that's really digging super deep into consumer insight. um, this is a tip for anyone listening: leverage social media as a consumer insight tool. You have your customers in front of you, and you can't get more intimate to them unless you're texting them, right? They're already on their phone. A lot of people are scrolling middle of the night. They're
mhm.
scrolling whenever they're bored, whatever the case may be. But you have an ability to have a conversation with them. So the first step I would recommend is leverage these channels, the online world, the digital world, to understand your consumer. Where are they going? How are they feeling? What are the trends? The pandemic had shifted people's habits and beliefs and thoughts. I mean, I just heard this the other day. We were having an internal discussion with my agency partners, and they were saying how the pandemic has made people to look at their home differently, right? Like, oh, this should be a place of comfort now. This should be my solace. The crazy thing is that that should have been the mindset from the beginning. So the
Right.
fact that that has now shifted, obviously, then we can look at, if you're working with the painting company or a designer or whatever, your message shifts, you understand where they're going and how this is going to affect it. Because moving forward, people are going to understand this work-life balance a little bit more. And then I don't see it shifting 100% to how it used to be in the rat race, right? So yeah, we leverage digital to find consumer insights, tap into what's going on with them, and then define, okay, well, what are the channel strategies, tactics that we do in order to get to front in front of them.
Nice. I definitely appreciate that. And I think so many times, as you said, like, especially if you haven't been paying attention to digital, sometimes when you go and you try to figure out where to do and, what platform should do, what should I be saying, what should I not say, so on and so forth, it becomes very, very overwhelming. So I love the way by which you're able to let people know that this is a tool by which you can use in order to have a conversation with your ideal clients and really start to work from there. Because I think it doesn't become as overwhelming if you understand that this is who we are, what we're trying to do as an organization, but also this is a way by which we can do that. And I love that you help to bridge that gap for those organizations to make that happen.
Yeah, thanks, man. And this was intentional. Before I started diving into my business, I did consumer insight. I said, okay, if the people that I want to help are senior management, established business owners who are amazing in their business, they're experienced business owners, but they're feeling a little intimidated, at a loss, they're feeling like rookies in the digital
Hmm.
world. That's really difficult for someone who's been in the game for 25, 30
Right.
years, right? And so the consumer insight brought that out, and it showed that, they were just wanted a sense of relief, right? They just wanted to get away with the BS and the noise and just go directly and talk straight. And it just so happens that's one of my skill sets too. I like to work with full transparency, and so it just kind of aligns with it all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be able to have so many win-win scenarios, and I appreciate that you're able to do and to help those people, especially if they're really great at what they do, to be able to reach the people so that they can be of even more service, and that's absolutely a huge thing. And so, would you consider that to be what I call your secret sauce, the thing you feel kind of sets you apart and makes you unique? Is it that ability to be able to, I guess, I don't know if I want to use the word translate, but that's what's coming to mind, what somebody's doing to be able to communicate in a digital platform or in multiple digital platforms so that they can reach and help the clients that they work with.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it, and again, being fully transparent with the audience, and that's one of the biggest creative challenges that we have as a company is how do we, because the secret sauce is to sit down with someone and say, listen, I get you. I'm business
Mhm.
first. I'm not digital first. I'm business first. What do you want? What do you need? What's your sales process like? Who's your customer? Where are we at? Great. Now let's get into the digital stuff of it. So because of that, it's always a creative challenge of how do we throw that message out to folks? Because really the magic comes when I'm sitting with them one on one, or where we're in a room together. Then they see, okay, this guy's, his heart's in the right place, his mind's in the right place, and he's not looking at it from a digital standpoint. He's looking at it from a business standpoint, and then applying the digital to it. So yeah, I would say that is definitely my secret sauce. And I think another thing too, that I would throw out there as a secret sauce is any of the work that we come up with, any disruptive strategies, any project, any campaign, etc., we shoot for the superficial side of let's get an award out of this. Let's
Mhm.
do something that's going to be amazing and is going to be disruptive, etc. But really, the second main part of it, and this is where the clients get really happy, is we focus on shareholder wealth. How are we going to build something in the digital world or in this campaign, a new platform as a product, whatever the case may be, that's going to increase your stock value. It's going to increase the overall value of the organization. So, from being understanding of we're both business people, I just so happen to bring in digital to it, to hey, we're not here to just get you more likes on Instagram or get you more comments. No, we're here to add a revenue channel. We're here to position the company in the best way for longevity and sustainability, increase shareholder wealth. I feel like those are really the secret sauces.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate that. And I think it speaks to what you said before, using that word tool of using digital as a tool rather than, I guess, the tool using us, which often happens a lot where you feel like you have to do it because everybody says that you should do it. But really, as you said, talking and putting on that business cap and be able to say, hey, I understand your business. I understand what you're trying to do. This is a, potential other way, or potentially you can do it this way and pivot in some way in order to increase the value that you have for your shareholders and also of course reach those awards and goals and all those things that come along the line along the way of doing that too.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where I disagree with the likes of a Gary V.
Hmm.
His messaging is be everywhere. I've met with
Hmm.
plenty of clients who their first mention of any digital is Gary V. That's the guy that's
Right.
owning it, right? And they tell me that, they say, yeah, he tells me to be everywhere, but I mean, the team's too small. I don't know if I can do it, et cetera. And then the first thing I ask them is like, well, who are you trying to get through? Well, our people are mostly seniors, or they're mostly stay-at-home moms, or they're this. It's like, then don't be everywhere. Be in
Hmm.
this specific channel, be in this specific platform, be in this specific way of communicating. So yeah, but Gary Vee's doing his thing. He's doing great, but I think like, it's kind of a sneak peek to the guidance that I give these business owners. It's, again, don't get overwhelmed by this stuff. Yes, ideally in one day you'd want to be everywhere because most likely your product or service has different pockets of audiences that they serve. But let's define which is the highest return on investment, which is the product or service that you offer that you're going to get the most return on, and let's kill that from a campaign standpoint, from a producing standpoint, sales funnel, all that good stuff, and then let's expand out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to what we kind of talked about before of approaching business as a marathon. And I think so many times we forget or kind of gloss over that resource piece. And I mean resources as far as money, but also definitely as far as time and energy, how many people you have to kind of row those boats towards that goal. And I think when we sit down and understand that, you find out, okay, this is where my target market is. These are the resources I have that can help reach that target market. And then you start to expand, maybe next year or 6 months or whatever that timeline might look like. And it allows you to be able to kind of tackle and I think make a bigger dent, I guess, in the universe and definitely digitally so that you can continue to kind of branch out from there.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. One of my old clients, like, because I just don't really work in the local sector anymore, but this
Mhm.
guy was an established realtor. He'd been in the game for 10, 15 years, did really well, but he just felt like he was spending a lot of money online, and just wasn't really producing, right? He was doing Google ads and trying to get some leads. He was doing Yelp advertising. He had some social media going on. And throughout I would probably say 2, 3 years now of just consulting with him, um, he's removed everything, including he still keeps his print for holidays, for little things here and there, but he doesn't do it consistently. Removed his Yelp and everything, and all he does now is Instagram. And he's producing 80 to 90% leads on there. We ran a campaign 4th of July, and he had over 800 comments, and each one of those comments had at least 3 people tagged to him, because it was a campaign he was doing. It was a giveaway to people who had recommended first time buyers to them that just felt really nervous. And, he was able to confide in them and help them align their credit and all that good stuff. And all of this was messaging that was thrown in the video along with the giveaway. And I'm telling you, man, I think at this point, I think it's sitting at about 10,000 views and over 800 comments of people just engaging. And I think he was closing about 4 to 5 deals a week or a month with that campaign specifically.
Mm.
So it was a huge revenue booster. And again, we're only using Instagram, where there's no need
Yeah.
for me to run any Google ads for you or anything like that. This platform is killing it for you. There's a book called The One Thing, and
Mhm.
it talks about that, right? And he's got his time back. Now he has an assistant helping with the Instagram, and it's the magic of really optimizing the one channel that's producing for you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's absolutely one of my favorite books, and that might segue me to the like what I was going to ask you as far as like the CEO hack. So that could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient. Is it that book, The One Thing, one of my favorites that you feel like helps make you more effective and efficient?
So actually, for me, what made me effective and efficient was business coaches. I've gone through 2 so far.
Mm,
I will go through more always, because the goals keep getting bigger, right? You hit a
mhm,
certain revenue goal and you want to hit the next level and then the next level. And there's always someone that's doing it bigger than you.
mhm,
So that honestly, that for me, it was that. The very first individual was Pops, just seeing how he worked and maneuvered and his discipline and all that good stuff. And then as I try to venture on my own, I just kind of knew that it wasn't really for the accountability, but it was, to me, I just knew, like, this is the shortcut. This is and I hate to say that word, because obviously everyone's looking for a shortcut, but if you team up with someone who has the experience, who can teach you, you're going to avoid a lot of mistakes. You're going to avoid a lot of stuff that you're going to avoid the traps that we all fall into, because of the individual you have. I mean, when I first started going on my own and I wanted to do local agency work, I had worked with, rest in peace, he passed away a couple of years ago. James Martell, he was my first coach on this stuff. And I remember, having a client who was ready to close a $4,500 deal. And I did my sales thing and I put in the work with the client to build the rapport and everything. And they wanted a detailed proposal. And so I'm calling my business coach, at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., like, hey, I got this guy, he's ready to go, this is and that. And he's like, yeah, great. Share me your first draft. I'll give you some feedback and then, encourage you to do this. And we were able to put in a great proposal and get the business the next day. So it's those type of things that, a mentor, someone who could guide you. Again, it kind of goes back to why I decided to like lead with guidance. It's those things that are gonna just save you years of pain and issues, but you still got to put in the work. that's
mhm,
that's the biggest thing. Mike Tyson had a coach. Jordan had a coach. The greatest have coaches, but you still got to hit the gym. You still got to hit practice. You still got to do your cardio. Like, hey,
mhm.
that does not go away.
Yeah, well, they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So even you having those people in place to tell you how to be successful or increase your likelihood of success, you still have to roll up your sleeves and make sure that it happens on our end. So I definitely appreciate that hack. And I want to ask you now for what I call a CEO nugget. So this could be a word of wisdom or a piece of advice, something you might tell a client, or if you hopped into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Oh man. So I'll give you two. From
Mhm.
a younger business self perspective, I have this hack that I started doing. I think around 20 to 22 is when I don't know where it came from. It came from learning somewhere, where I would ask people if I stumbled on a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old. I would ask them, what's the advice you would give your 22-year-old self, 23, whatever age I was at the time, because I found that people always give advice based off regret. Wish I would have done this. Wish I would have done that. And I got crazy things, anything from I would have gone on, I would have hung out with more women before I got married.
Right,
I
right.
would have whatever, And one of the successful chiropractor, he hit me with, I would have balanced out my life a little bit more. I build my practice. I have my practice. I got my kids and my wife. Don't get me wrong; they're still there and they love me and everything, but I wish I would have just spent a little more time with them because they're only kids once and things of that nature. So on the personal side, kind of the nugget, I would encourage you to do that, and it could still apply to this day. I'm 31. I can go to someone who's in there. I have a business mentor right now. They just sold their company for a little under 700 million. He's,
Mhm.
45. So he's got, a few years on me. I could ask him the same thing. What's the advice you
Mhm.
would give yourself at my age, right? To set me up to that. And then on a business side of thing, this one comes to mind because I get asked this all the time. People want to know, how much money should I be spending online? What should my budget be? Here's a nice formula for you to figure that out. The budget on each individual is dependent on the organization. What's the customer worth to you? Is it worth $5? Is it worth 5 grand? Right? Based on that and your customer lifetime value, then you ask yourself, well, what is the percentage of the value that I'm willing to spend to acquire the lead? Right? So if it's worth 5 grand to me, I'm willing to spend 10%, whatever, then boom, I just got my figure. And I know my per lead should be around this much. Now you can, and then you can then assume, say, okay, let's say I'm going to assume off of 1% conversion rate right now because I still got to fix my messaging, etc. One day I want to get to 7%, but at this moment I'm at 1%. So if I'm at a 1% conversion rate, I'm willing to spend X amount per lead. I need to get, 100 people in here to get that one person. I've started to identify my budget. So I just wanted to throw that one out there because that's probably the number one question I get asked all the time. What should my cost per lead be and what should my budget be when marketing online or advertising online?
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. I appreciate you for breaking that down. And I think so many times, even under that, I found as a nugget is that it depends on what you're trying to do. And I think most of the time, people are looking for, oh, I need to spend $500, I need to be spending $5,000 or whatever it is. But I think it depends on what you're doing, where your goals are, and how exactly you're going to acquire those customers. And of course, I love being able to ask people to hop back in the time machine too, to kind of hear what things that they wish that they would have done, because I think that it helps us to direct our path. And as I heard you say as well, too, balance is a big thing. And I imagine talking with that chiropractor probably led to you making sure that you want to do that as well. So I appreciate those nuggets.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's all a learning lesson, Like,
Mhm.
if I was gonna personally go back to my like 21-year-old self or something, I would have just said, pick the one thing and then stick with it and just give it some time. Because I've done music, when I was younger, I was like 18, 19, 20, I was doing music and I was able to open up for Bone Thugs and Harmony, and then
Nice.
I started a little clothing brand with my cousin called Zoo Cookies. It's a little giraffe and a gingerbread man, and it's a cute
Mhm.
story. And I wrote out all these episodes and series or whatever, and people wanted to buy it, and they were asking about the brand, and people wanted stickers from all over the place, UK, Spain, etc. I've dabbled in stuff, but the money wasn't coming fast enough. I didn't feel like this was actually going to pay off. It was more of a hobby, whatever. But looking back at it, if I would have kept with the music or if I would have kept with the clothing brand at 31, I probably could have been sitting pretty, or I could have just been having enough to get by, but at least this thing was building, right? So
Right.
that's one thing I would tell myself, and I tell myself that right now. I strictly focus on my consulting in my digital world. There's a lot of other investment opportunities in front of me, from stock to real estate to generational wealth with my family. We have a lot to build still, but let's focus on that one thing, make it produce, and then we go on.
Absolutely. And the favorite part of that book that we talked about was the one thing that by doing it, every else is easier or unnecessary. So to make sure that you drill down on that and everything else goes from there is so huge. And definitely tell my younger business self that as well, because that's a great word of wisdom. And so I want to ask you now my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So, Jose, what does being a CEO mean to you?
That's funny, man. So I actually don't believe in being a CEO. I believe in being a shareholder. The
Mm,
CEO is an employee to the board of directors, and an employee to the shareholders. So, though I am CEO, I guess, of my agency and my consulting services, etc., that's not the end game. This is just something I'm doing at the moment to increase my income, increase my cash flow, build a book of business, build connections, enjoy my life, travel, business, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, you want to be a shareholder. You wanna own this stuff, man, in anything you do. And I think that comes from the immigrant mentality. Like, you do not want to be dependent on anyone. And so what does it mean to be a CEO? I think it means to create, lead, build a culture and organization. But to me, a successful CEO makes the transition out and becomes a shareholder, and the shareholder in whatever it is that they're holding. I don't mean shareholding just in stock per se, right? You could be part owner of a company and have a CEO managing it, type of thing. The successful CEO makes that transition.
nice. I definitely appreciate that. You're going to make me rename the podcast to the I Am Shareholder podcast. So
I think we got to
I,
start it. Yeah.
exactly. No, I love that definition and that perspective because I think it gets to the heart of what we're all hopefully trying to do. And I think freedom is something that comes to mind so many times. And as you start to own stuff, you start to have true ownership of things, then you start to be able to be free to do certain things and to work more or decide what you do, but you have the freedom to make those decisions. So I love that shareholder piece because I think ultimately that's what we're all trying to do. And regardless of whatever the title is, if you are and do have that ownership, then you do have that opportunity to implement that in your life in so many different ways. So definitely appreciate that definition.
Yeah, yeah, of course, man. I always find it funny too when I meet like CEOs and things of that nature. Like my business mentor who just sold, for a little under 700 million. He always says like, I'm not a CEO, I'm the janitor here. I'm the maintenance guy,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so to him, it's like the title ain't the title, man. It's what you build
Right.
and what you create and what you own.
Yeah, and definitely that impact that you're having as well too. So definitely appreciate that, Jose. And what I wanted to do is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you and find out about all the awesome things you're working on.
Sure. So, I guess the only thing I would say is, just remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and don't let this stuff overwhelm you. Leverage the digital world in a way of a tool. Quick story. Dad was selling insurance when he was younger. He had a brokerage in Mexico, and he was telling me one day he stumbles upon this gal. She starts telling him about all the needs that the company has for this specific type of insurance. So he gathers all this information, stumbles up into the office, presents himself as, "Hey, I'm an insurance guy. I specialize in this, and this." Just reiterating everything that she just told him. And he landed the deal. One of the biggest deals he had at the time. It was for a trucking company, so he's insurance for all these commercial trucks and all that good stuff. When
Nice.
he told me that story, I told him, "Dad, that's what you can do digitally at a massive scale. You
Mm,
can have that insider information from that individual and then scale that mother up, and then you're just going to have that book of business." So leverage digital as a tool and don't get overwhelmed by it. And then the only ask, or if you want to reach out to me, is I'm just offering free guidance. Again, consumer research, we looked into what are these established business owners and founders and seniors management looking at. They're not tech savvy, they're not digital savvy, but they're extremely smart in their business, and they have a very intimate connection to their business. They want to leverage digital, but they don't want to get sold. They don't want to get sent on a path of a tactic that's not going to be efficient for them, only because their competitors are doing it, et cetera. So I'm offering guidance. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Jose Quiroz, or Jose Quiroz Digital. The last name is spelled Quiroz. Find me on LinkedIn, send me a quick message, just say guidance, and we'll make it very simple. Quick 15, 20-minute conversation. We'll get to know each other. And again, I'll guide you in the right direction, whether that's a specific channel, strategy, platform, tactic, working with me or not, whatever the case may be. Hopefully I send you in the right direction. And then, yeah, yeah, if you guys want to check out the website, you can check it out, jayquiroz.com. If you're a bigger guy and you're looking for this brand strategy, bigger, again, the likes of Burger King, AT&T, these type of guys, this type of work, you can check out antonioandparis.com. And then I also have a podcast, Where to Market Your Business Online, that you can check out on iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I definitely appreciate that, Jose. We will have the links and information in the show notes. And I think it never hurts to have a conversation. And so I appreciate you for making yourself available for people to be able to do that. And I think so many times we think that digital is completely different from what we're doing in the world, but really it's just a representation of that and kind of a snapshot of that. So I love that story that you told as well, too, because it helps us to realize that having a conversation one-on-one can be done digitally to 100 times that or even more. So if we start to look at it in a different way, we can just have those conversations on these platforms. So appreciate you for doing that as well, and I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate being here, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.